So you just bought the pre-constructed Benji Blitz deck and you want to improve it without breaking the bank. This video will be going over some quick upgrades that you can make to this out-of-the-box deck for about $25. We'll be adding in some affordable equipment and key cards so that you can have a more powerful list for a reasonable price. If you're new to Flesh and Blood, I highly advise using budget upgrade lists first before you decide to invest in expensive cards like the legendary equipment. I'm going to be using Card Trader as my price guide for this video, although I highly recommend you shop around at some local stores to see if they carry singles before you buy online. But with that all said, let's get into the list. Starting with the equipment, we're going to be making a couple of changes. The first is to replace the Silken Gi with the Blossom of Spring. Almost all of the cards in the deck cost 0 to play, but we are keeping in the copies of Twin Twisters, and the Blossom of Spring lets you play one essentially for free on a turn where you want to maximize the damage you can present with your hand. Another swap we'll want to make is trading the Fleetfoot Sandals for Tide Flippers. These boots are much more reliable at giving us go again, and they pack Arcane Barrier, so they serve a double purpose. And to round out that Arcane Barrier package, we'll also want to add copies of both Nullrune Hood and gloves. Moving on to the main deck, we're going to remove the copies of Yellow Plunge, replacing them with Spring Tidings. This Benji specialization is the one card your opponents will be saving their equipment for, because if you hit with it, you get to draw a card for each other attack with base 2 or less power that hit this combat chain. This single card can get you far past a normal 4 or 5 card turn, and it's the single most threatening card in the deck because of it. And to make sure that you get that on hit, we'll swap the red Spring Loads with red Razor Reflexes. This card is pretty much the third and fourth copies of Short and Sharp, which the deck comes with, but Razor has the added benefit of giving an attack go again if it hits, so it has even more flexibility in this deck. Following that same idea, we'll also trade the 2 red Bleed Outs for Ancestral Empowerments. This card only gives a +1 to a ninja attack action, but if your opponent blocks a 2 power attack with an equipment piece for 2, then that +1 is all you need to get up and over. On top of that, Ancestral lets you draw a card when you play it, replacing itself and helping to keep that probably already obnoxiously long combat chain going. We're also going to replace the red Feisty locals with copies of Vipox. This attack action feels like it was practically made for this deck, attacking in for just 1, but making opponents lose life equal to the cards in their hand. And since your opponents can't block this with cards in hand, that number will probably be closer to 4 more often than not. And a 0 for 5 that blocks for 3 is incredible value for this deck. And finally, we'll replace the red Head Jabs with 2 Double Strikes. This one card gets to attack twice, banishing itself the first time to be played some other time on the combat chain. Not only does this card chip away at your opponent, but it also helps power up the Salt the Wounds that the deck comes with, as it counts both hits for its ability. However, this isn't the same with Spring Tidings, as it counts cards on the chain, so Double Strike will only count once. That being said, it's still a great card to run for this deck. And that's it. That's the deck. Benji is a super tricky hero for your opponents to face, but be warned, only having 17 starting life total means that sometimes you will have to be more defensive than offensive, and you'll have to pick your times to really get in at the opponent. Hopefully this upgraded version serves you as an excellent entry point into the game, and if you found this video helpful, consider leaving a like or possibly subscribing if you want to see more Flesh and Blood content. But with that, I hope you all have a good day, and I hope you're enjoying Flesh and Blood. If you liked this video and want to help support me, consider either becoming a channel member or checking out my Patreon. There are different levels of bonuses like early access to videos, signed cards, and even custom hero cards. And to those who are already supporting me, you have my deepest and most honest appreciation. It's because of all of you that I can continue to put in the work to bring the best content I possibly can to the Chadliest community in the TCG space. Thank you, my friends.